really sad that it's come to an end. Kind of have mixed feelings about it, and that's kind of what I want to talk about in this video. Now, I'll start with the good, actually. First and foremost, I like the jazzy tune at the beginning in the main menu. I actually really like it. I think that's cool. I think the music overall is pretty good. It's pretty good. Like, fighting games typically have fire music, and so I'm happy that this game actually has some kind of chill, soothing, kickback music to it, my opinion. The art style of this game is fucking gorgeous. I think that this game is beautiful. It's very pleasant to look at. The hit sparks, they look amazing. The characters stylistically look great too. Full bias for mine, B.Jenet, of course, you already know the vibes, but overall, I just think that this game, it's very vibrant, it's very eye-popping, and I think that's going to lend help to spectators or people that might not even be familiar with the franchise at all, right? And even if you're familiar with the franchise, like, this is my first Fatal Fury that I'm kind of like actually really sitting down playing and taking serious. I'm aware of King of Fighters and Fatal Fury, right? But I can't say I really grew up on it, but I did grow up alongside it. So I do have an appreciation for it, even if it wasn't a title that I played a ton. However, with this game, I knew I had to give it a try, and I can confidently say I love it. I actually love this game. I love the mechanics. It took me a while to get used to SPG and a couple of these other things, right? I think that this game, in terms of like controlling your movement, it feels weird. Don't take this wrong. Street Fighter doesn't feel stiff, right? I always look, when it comes to traditional fighters, I look at Street Fighter as like the model fighting game, because I love Street Fighter, primarily Street Fighter 6 as well, right? But when it comes to like how you can move in a sense of like a traditional like back and forth fighter, not like an anime fighter where you're zooming around and shit, which not bad, by the way, it's really cool. It kind of feels stiff, this game, in some ways, but it doesn't feel overbearingly stiff, and it doesn't feel stiff without a purpose. Now, that could be me just not being used to the feel of Fatal Fury, especially compared to like other fighting games on the market or from the past, but I don't think it impedes on how the game overall feels, runs, and how easy it is to, I want to say, get into the game. Doing combos, the combo system in this game is interesting. It took me a while to understand that you got to like EX into EX to do combos. I think the saddest part, and I'll get to this a little bit later, is like no training mode, so I couldn't really sit down and lab out a bunch of confirms. But it seems like even with less buttons than like Street Fighter 6, this game still has a vibrant and, I want to say, variable combo system. And I think that's really important to have in a fighting game. So on paper, because of the less buttons, it feels pretty simplistic. You even have some kind of auto combos in there that you could tie into for, I guess, beginner players or people that are just getting into the game. But for the more experienced players, you quickly realize, like, oh, these aren't optimal, which is how it always should be. But even they do kind of have their uses in some niche situations as well. I like that the game feels unique. It feels like it tries to follow after Street Fighter in some ways, but still carve its own way and its own unique path that doesn't take away from, I want to say, the competitive aspect of the game, while also still feeling refreshing as well. And I can appreciate that a lot. I didn't get to fight all the characters that were in the beta this time around. I primarily played I played a tiny bit of B.Jenet, hoping to change that when full release comes out, because I want to play both of those characters at the moment. But, I think I spent the most time fighting against my friends, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I didn't really want a monster ranked, or I played like, I think, one free play casual match, maybe one or two. But other than that, I spent a lot of time trying to fight my friends, because primarily it was probably the best way that I was going to learn the game, right? And this goes into the bad. So, there's a tutorial. The tutorial was fine, but that's it, right? So I think the tutorial left out certain things that would have been really helpful to pretty much drill into players coming into this game. But I think the biggest thing is that there was no lab. Now, I don't know why there wasn't a lab. I do know is that if you're having a beta, trial, demo of any fighting game, it would be in your best interest to have a lab for players to go in and figure out characters, right? There's nothing worse at all levels of play than jumping into a game head first into a match and nobody knows what they're doing. On paper, that might sound funny, like, oh yeah, you both don't know what you're doing. So yeah, but it's still not a pleasing experience, right? If you're a veteran of fighting games, you want to learn the in and outs of not only your character, but the game mechanically. And you can't really do that in a heated match against a stranger. Now, if you have homies, you know, you can boot into a lobby and pretty much be like, all right, man, just hold forward. Let me figure this out. Let me test this. But, you know, that's taking away time from your friend that they could be using to learn their character, and then time that you could be using to learn your character, which would just be really good to just sit down and do in a lab. And I think that's like the part that takes away from the game in a way, where that made the beta, I want to say, very frustrating to play. It's like everything else was great, but the fact that there was no lab, it was a very frustrating experience. And I can only imagine what it would be like for someone that is trying to get into the series for the first time. It's like, yo, this game looks cool. Let me try this out. Fuck, I can't learn anything on my own because there's no training mode. Like, a training mode and a fighting game pretty much go hand in hand. They're like synonymous with each other. And I feel like in the absence of that, you hurt the overall experience of all levels of play. You feel me? And especially for a player that may be on the fence about getting into your game, think of it this way, right? If they feel intimidated by playing people who are fighting game veterans that they're probably going to run into, or just playing people in general, they could just spend all the time in this game in the lab, in the beta, right? Maybe they got beat a bunch. Instead of just outright quitting, they go to the lab to try to de-stress or just try to, you know, have fun trying to do cool shit on a dummy, right? And so ultimately, this was the most stressful and annoying part of the beta, on top of one other thing. Sadly, there are a lot of ping spikes, and the UI for this game is rough, I will say. It felt like I couldn't like navigate. Well, it felt, a lot of people had this issue where it felt like there were a lot of menus unnecessarily to go through to get through to simple things. And like in an era where you could literally just invite a homie by just like searching their name and hitting invite, and boom, they're in the lobby. You have to do something with like room IDs or friend code ID. Like, nah, we ain't really trying to do all that. And so at the beginning of this thing, it took more time to even try to get in a lobby to fight a friend than actually playing the game. And, you know, the most important thing for a fighting game in general is to have good netcode. And so the netcode, in my opinion, when it's great, it's great. But when it's rough, it's rough. And, you know, I think this is like the most important thing outside of gameplay, is you have to have good rollback netcode, because if you don't, it's pretty much a death sentence for any fighting game on arrival at this point, because a standard has been set, right? So outside of that, I love this game. I'm very excited that I do love this game. I knew I was going to like it. It looked like I was going to like it, but I didn't expect to love it. And towards the end, I had a much more enjoyable experience, and I thank my homies that have experience in this game already for, you know, helping me out and pretty much trying to help me overcome the frustrations of there being no lab, so that I can actually learn how to play and really enjoy the most out of my character and the experience. You know, thank you for letting us play, SNK, and I can't wait for this game to fully drop. This is going to be definitely something I invest a lot of time into, alongside like Street Fighter 6 and Tekken, when I do go back to that eventually. So, guys, let me know what you think of Fatal Fury City of the Wolves if you played the beta, or if you haven't still, let me know what you're thinking about the game from what you've seen and who you're looking forward to playing. I can't wait for Chun-Li to come out. Cannot wait. This is NAKAT. Take it easy. Peace out. Deuces.